Hey everybody. Today I want to talk a little bit more about mineralizing my aquarium water. Yesterday I shot a video talking about how I prefer to use eggshells as opposed to the aragonite coral. If you didn't see that video, I'll attach a link and you can watch that video if you want. But one of the problems I have with the way I shoot my videos, my style of videos, well, it's two problems really. One is that they're unscripted and I just sit down and do my best to talk about what's on my mind. And unfortunately, a lot of times I skim over stuff or I miss stuff or I fail to circle back to a point I was trying to make. And sometimes my videos are a little patchy when it comes to complete information. The other thing I do is I always just assume that everybody that's watching my video has watched all my videos and knows all about me and my personality and all that kind of stuff. And I know that's not true either, but at the same time, I can't really start every video by saying in the beginning and recapping my entire fish keeping hobby for my first time viewers or my new viewers or whatever. So I have to assume some bit of, you know who I am, you know how I like to keep fish and so on and so forth. So all that out of the way, the reason that I don't use Equilibrium or wonder shells, which is a lot of the questions I got asked on my other video where I talked about why I use my eggshells. I was asked a lot, well, why don't you use just simple Equilibrium or wonder shells? They do exactly what you're describing. So first of all, I'm not sure about the Equilibrium. I've never used it. I'm not familiar with that product, but I am familiar with the wonder shells. I've used them before and they work great. They do exactly what they're supposed to do. But in my case, I wanted to shift the pH just a little bit, and the wonder shells don't affect your pH. They give you a little bit of the mineralization. They put the cations in your water, but they don't put carbonates in your water, and therefore you don't affect your pH. I wanted to affect my pH. I wanted to put calcium carbonate in the water so that my pH would come up a little bit. So using wonder shells wouldn't have solved my problem, first of all, right off the bat. Secondly, it's just my personal opinion, but I think the wonder shells look terrible. I think they look awful sitting in a tank. So if I put them in a tank, I've got to hide them or put them inside the filter or something like that. Not a big issue, but that's a factor. I just don't like the way they look. I also have to keep replacing them constantly. I have to put them in my tank at virtually every water change because they dissolve away in just a few days or a week and they're gone. And I've got to either put new ones in at each water change or just skip them or whatever. And again, it just becomes more of a hassle than I'm willing to worry about, plus an expense ongoing, constantly having to buy new wonder shells. I've got 15 fish tanks. That's a lot of wonder shells to buy for every time I'm doing water changes. That's just not reasonable for me to do that. And the wonder shells don't actually accomplish my goal of raising the pH a little bit, which is what I wanted to do in addition to adding some mineralization. As far as the Equilibrium, I don't know a lot about that product. I don't know whether it affects your pH or not. I understand, if I understand it correctly, I think it does. I think the Equilibrium is to balance your pH and give your water some mineralization and some hardness and some stability. I could be wrong about that. I don't know. Again, it's a product I've never used, but my regular viewers know I don't use any products like that. I don't put anything in my tanks that has to be done on any kind of regular basis. I don't use foods for my plants. I don't use fertilizers. I don't use root tabs. I don't use Flourish, Excel. I don't use any of that stuff. I just do my water changes and that's all I do. And it's just part of my personality. It's who I am. If I have to do stuff at every single water change and keep track of, did I add this amount? How much water did I take out? How much capfuls do I need to put? Not interested in doing that. It'll never get done. I'll lose track of what I've done. I'll forget whether I put it in this time or I didn't put it in that time. It's just how I am. I'm not asking for suggestions. I know that I can write this stuff down. I understand how to do journals and set reminders. Again, I'm not asking for life advice here. I'm just telling you, this is who I am. It's my personality. I know how I am, and I know that I'm not going to mess around with putting additives in my tanks. The eggshells, I put them in the tank and I forget about them. I can do that whenever I feel like it. It doesn't have to be during a water change. If I've got some eggshells, I throw them in the tank and they're just in there. They're doing their thing. A big, a quarter cup of eggshells or half a cup of eggshells, even in a tank this size, will take months before it dissolves away. And by then I've probably thrown some more in on top of it. And so there's just always some in there. And That's the way I like to manage my tanks. If I can put a package, you know, one of the little mesh bags of aragonite in one of my canister filters, every now and again when I'm doing my filter changes, I can see the amount of aragonite in there is getting lower and lower. And, you know, one of those times when I'm thinking about it, I'll add a little more, fill the bag back up, and the tank will just keep on running. If it's something I've got to do at every water change or once a month or every 10 days, and it's something I've got to measure out the amount of water and guesstimate how much water did I take out versus how much am I putting back in, it's just not going to happen. So that's the long and short of it. I do the eggshells because it's a one and done. I put it in there, I forget about it, and I walk away, and the eggshells just sit in there quietly and slowly doing their thing and keeping my tanks where I want them, putting some minerals in the water, keeping my pH stable. It's free. I don't have to keep doing it at every water change. I don't have to keep buying stuff. I don't have to measure anything. That's why I use eggshells in my aquariums. I like it simple. If it's not simple, then it just doesn't really get done. It's not that I don't understand complicated. I just don't have time for it. I just don't mess with it, not interested in it. I'm not looking for something complicated to do. I'm looking for something simple to enjoy, and that's the way I keep it. So there you go. That's my 2 cents. I will be talking more about the eggshells. I did get a few of you asking to show how I prepare them, or at least describe and explain. I'm not going to necessarily show you step by step how I do it, but I will talk about how I prepare the eggshells and, you know, what I do with them and why I do it and so on and so forth. We'll talk about all that, and I will also talk about the pH. Got a few people saying that they were interested to see the color shift in the pH and how that moves when the pH goes up or down or whatever. So we'll talk about that coming up in the future too. I've always got a list of videos I'd like to get shot. I never get time to do all of them, or if I did, you'd all get sick of watching them because I'd be posting 3 videos a day. So bear with me. I'll get around to most things eventually when I can. So make sure you're subscribed. That way you won't miss any of that or anything else I've got coming up. I won't have to explain all of my personality to you at the beginning of every video again if you're already subscribed and a regular viewer. So make sure you hit the subscribe button. Make sure you hit that bell. You'll get notified when I do post. Thanks for watching this one. I'll see you real soon in the next one.